Welcome back, thank you very much for joining me. I'm Benjo. It's time for another awesome leak from our man Jravens. All his links and information is below in the description, so sure to check it all out. I wanted to come straight to you because he has come out with 10 areas, yeah that's right, 10 areas which are designated as maps for Ghost War. I did a video earlier this week about 4 locations I believe would be for Ghost Wars from the first reveal look, but as the maps aren't that big, it ended up actually being 5 maps. But I'm going to spend 60 seconds on each map giving you their location, the distance between each spawn and a quick overview of the area. So without any further delay, as usual, I've got a load to go through, so let's get straight into it and tackle the first 5 that I predicted. First up we have Koani, and it's at Arbol de Piedra. This little area here, spawns are around about 650 to 700 meters away from each other, so we've got quite a good distance. These aren't huge maps. But this tower here does look over both spawn locations, so it does look like it might be a key location in the map to take control of. But this raised building area, this is going to be looking over where the antenna is. So overall there's quite a few different areas that we can engage. There's some good long lines. The map size isn't huge, which is great. There's going to be a lot of encounters and a lot of kind of combat, which is what we want. We don't want to be traipsing across the map and not meeting anybody. And the antenna seems to be between this building here and the gasoline station just here. This could be quite a good area to have a little battle in. I am intrigued to see what kind of tactics people are going to start using to deal with humans. Rather than play against the AI, which we've all been doing for far too long now, it's going to make things interesting. It's going to really have to make our brains tick again. But now let's move on to the second area, which is in Flor, and it's at the Huma Chua Sawmill. Now the Huma Chua Sawmill spawns are around about 600 meters away from each other, so it's pretty decent range. As you can see, one spawn, the insertion point A at the top, is actually closer to the Recon antenna than insertion point B. Now this could prove to be quite interesting on this map. Of course you're going to have the respawn advantage because you can get back into the combat a little bit quicker. But as we have a look from the other side, it does look to be quite a good few bits of cover. And you're coming in from slightly higher ground, which is always going to give you a slight advantage. Not much if you don't use it in the right way, and also depends how the other team decide to defend that area if they get it first. But overall it should prove to be quite an interesting place to have some battles. We've got lots of piles of logs, a few different buildings, different vehicles in the area, so quite a good place to have a little battle, have a little bit of fun. But sometimes of course we are going to get a little bit serious because that is what PvP is about. Now on to the third map. It's also in Flor and it's at the Rocha Sawmill. And we've got a similar kind of setup but more even spawns. They're about 600 meters away, so it's not too bad. At the top we've got the little village, so we've got a few buildings, but unless people are going to try and kill in the spawn, it's not really going to be that relevant. It's all going to be centered more around this sawmill in the middle. So of course we've got a few buildings, another few wood piles to be able to climb up and try and get some lines, but be careful, you don't want to get caught up what there. It's not a great place to respawn or be revived. As you can see, you've got a good kind of covering from the forest to come out from the spawn at the insertion point B. Straight into some cover to try and working your way into the centre of the sawmill. Overall, I think this map is going to play more into the team game, which is great because that's what we want PvP for. We want it to be a team game, we want it to be tactical, and we want it to be strategic. So fingers crossed this map should prove some very interesting encounters ahead. Now, if we head over to Barvechos, we can see the silver mine, which is an area located. I am quite glad that we are just going to be fighting down in the bottom of this quarry. We can see both spawns are other sides of the quarry. It's a little boomerang shape, which is great, and spawns around 600 meters away. Overall though, this could prove to be quite an interesting place for some battles. I said it in my previous video, we've got a lot of cover, a lot of places to work around, and we know where the enemy is going to be coming from. It's going to be a kind of a battle in the middle for the Recon antenna. So I'm quite excited to play this map. We've got some buildings in here as well. Of course, insertion point B, those buildings there are going to be a lot stronger, but how they're going to be able to be used in combat, I don't really see it. I'm going to see more of the combat being on the ground, around the antenna, maybe on a few roads, if we can get up some of them without being told we're not allowed. I'm not too sure, but we'll wait and see. But overall, this is a very different type of map to the previous maps. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this map and seeing how close to the combat really is. So next it's on to map 5, which is in Espiritu Santu. This is at the Pilgrims house, and the spawns are going to be about 650 to 700 meters away from each other. So as we can see, of course, on this map is very different. The Recon antenna is placed far over on the side, but we do have this big jungly area in the middle. So both spawn points are out on the roads, and we're going to be kind of converging on towards the middle. Now there's not that many buildings in here. How this is going to plan out, how you're going to play it tactically, of course that all depends on your team. But there's a lot of opportunities to flank around, come through the jungle, sneak up, but you're not really going to be coming from behind the antenna that much. You might be able to sneak around and get into a building, but if they're covering it, it's going to be quite difficult. But overall, this could prove to be a very interesting and very different map because of that jungle area. Everything is very closely located in and around that Recon antenna, so that's where a lot of the action is going to be happening. Now if we move on to the next map, it's in Aqua Verde, and it's on a little island of Goyo. Quite an interesting battle I think is going to occur on here. The spawns are only 400 meters away, so we're right up in each other's faces. But this is where the Recon antenna is supposed to be, around this kind of raised area. You can't really get to it from insertion point B that easily because of this wall. It's kind of funneling people up. So once you've got the high ground, if you're going to be defending quite aggressively at the top, you're going to have an advantage on those respawns on B. Whereas coming from insertion point A, we can see here that there's quite a few buildings, quite a few different paths that you can take to get up to the antenna point. I think once you've got the advantage on that higher ground, you're going to try and kind of pin down in spawn, stop them from getting up. Overall, in comparison to the other types of map, this is going to prove to be quite interesting because it's a lot smaller, and one of the smallest that has come out. Yes, Ubisoft have got a nice big map to really take a selection of areas from, but it's nice to see we're getting a nice bit of diversity in these first maps that they're throwing at us. But next on, it's up to map 7, and that's in Libertad at Kollu. Now we've all should have been here recently for the challenges, for the 3 witches, little Easter egg. I'm not going to go into that because it's quite disappointing. But in Libertad at Kollu, well, it's like a village location. We're going to have the witches market on one side, and the other side's quite open, but the antenna looks like it's going to be on this raised ground in the centre of the village. Again, some interesting encounters depending on which way you come from. If you sneak into the village and come round, that's going to give you, of course, a little bit of an advantage and a bit more cover. Whereas if you're coming out right hand side, you're kind of more open. But overall, again, a different type of map. It's not that small, you've got 750 to 800 metres, so you're about 400 metres away from the antenna when you spawn in, but there is a lot of ways that you can approach and attack this one, so this is one of the larger maps that we're getting, which is great that there's a bit of diversity in size. Now up to map 8, onto Media Luna and in a village called Cardoza. Spawns are around about 550 to 600 metres away, and again this is going to be another one of those village encounters. As we come from one spawn into the village, you can see you've got lots of buildings to work around. Looking at where the Recon antenna is going to be, it's where my guys are in the middle. More on that higher ground, you're going to have a bit of an advantage. There is a couple of ways that you can come round. There's quite a lot of space open to the kind of back of this. As you can see, if you can sneak up on this pillar, it's not a pillar, you can sneak up on this rock on the right hand side. What you will see, of course, see some really good sniper lines just looking over the antenna. Hopefully low. Again, this will be a different kind of battle to some of the other maps that we've seen so far. If we look around the other side as well, there's another route that we can come in down the low side of the village. So overall, different ways that we can really approach the area. Now on to map 9, and we're in San Mateo, and we're at the Verde cattle ranch. Here, your spawns again around 550 to 600 metres away, but literally this area is really barren. Looking around, all we've really got is this cattle ranch. We've got a little stream that runs up, which can give you a little bit of cover, maybe from each spawn to get a little bit closer in. As the spawns, as you can see, there's no cover to get into the ranch. So once you've got the ranch, you really are going to have a bit of an advantage, and the other team is going to have to play quite tactically to kind of get to that sweet spot, shall we say, to be able to really make a push. Overall, though, once you're in, there's a few places in there. Be careful, there is a gas tank, so when that goes boom, you don't want to be standing next to it. But really, we'll have to see how this pans out. There's going to be a lot more longer range encounters, because of course we've got nice clear lines of sight. So hopefully, again, it's nice to see a different one in the mix. Next up, we've got map 10, and it's in Tabacal at Barrientos Coop. In this one, the spawns are around about 350 to 400 metres away, another quite small map. As you can see, this is where my guys are, that's where the Recon antenna is going to be. The insertion points, we've not got very far at all, 150, 200 metres, and we're going to be right into the thick of it. And it's not going to take that long. So of course this is going to prove to have some very interesting fast-paced encounters. There's not really many ways that you could really approach this from. If each angle is quite open, you've got a couple of high grounds that you might be able to take advantage, maybe pick off a few looking over it. But again, the spawns are very open, very direct to where we're going to be heading to. So hopefully that does bring us a bit more of a fast-paced game than just sitting back doing nothing. Not saying that I want it to be really fast-paced, because this is supposed to be a tactical shooter. Again, we don't want it to get boring and stagnant. So these are the 10 maps that have been released by Jravens. Again, massive thanks very much for you to put those out. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, but until next time, thanks very much for joining me, and take care.